If you're in your 40s and you've been told that your AMH is too low or that IVF is your only option, your numbers are definitely not the full story. So I know how scary this result can feel, but the AMH measures quantity, not quality, and it doesn't determine whether you have a healthy pregnancy. So today we're talking about what AMH really means, the hidden reasons it can drop, and how to support egg quality naturally, especially after 40. And also I'm going to share a client success story about Samantha, who conceived naturally at 44 with an AMH of only 0.02 after taking a functional approach. Let's go. Welcome back. I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile. For over a decade, my team and I have helped hundreds of couples improve their chances of pregnancy success, whether naturally or through IVF. We specialize in helping those with low AMH, high FSH, diminished ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency, recurrent pregnancy loss through functional lab testing and personalized fertility strategies. This episode is for you as if you've been told your AMH is too low and you want to understand what that really means for your fertility. You're in your you're in your late 30s or 40s and you want evidence-based ways to support egg quality naturally, and you're unsure if IVF is your next step and you want clarity before investing time, money, and hope that it's going to work. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow. And if you know someone else who's on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. I've talked about this before. Also, just before we get going, I'm recording in my new house. I'm actually sitting on a box. Because I'm trying to get this thing higher. AMH, so anti-Müllerian hormone, it reflects ovarian reserve, so the number of eggs, not their potential. Egg quality depends on the mitochondrial energy, so the energy of the cells, nutrients, and we see a lot of people that have nutrient deficiencies across the board with low AMH, and hormone balance. A lot of times we just focus in on the hormones, but we need to look at the whole body here. And many women with low AMH, they can still conceive. We've helped people with an AMH at 44 of 0.02 ng per n conceive naturally. So we need to know the number, the AMH, the FSH, the hormones, but we don't hang our hat on that. We need to look beyond it. And so we need to look at the underlying issues. So egg quality is influenced by inflammation. So if your high sensitivity C-reactive protein is over 1, which we see that a lot. We had one person, I was thinking of one where hers was 1.3, and it was secondary infertility. We see a lot of people with easy breezy, they're able to have their first child, and then the second child seems to get this low AMH, high FSH diagnosis comes out of the blue. You were pregnant, gave birth, your postpartum period, fed and birthed a human, and now wondering why your reserves are low. So we just need to boost everything up and look beyond those numbers. Her inflammation was high and she had a lot of stress. People that come to see me, they're typically type A's, and that theme, it's literally a theme I see over and over again of working on the graduate studies, looking after a child, trying to have the second child, and in this case, she was also working on a master's program, her MBA. A lot of stress. Also, she had some gut health issues and blood sugar. And then she went on to conceive naturally within about 7 to 8 months. Looking at the blood sugar. So inflammation, gut health, stress, blood sugar. It's not just focusing in on her age. In this case study, she was in her late 30s. Like we just talked about, the chronic inflammation. I see many people I feel totally fine. I'm not stressed at all. I don't think I need any kind of mindset, nervous system regulation. But then when we look at their adrenals, our whole thesis on this, is it actually early menopause or is it your adrenals that impact the thyroid? And people tell me, my thyroid's normal. They've checked it over and over again. We don't want normal. We want optimal. We need to look at the full panel, including antibodies. If you're on thyroid medication, then we know for sure there's an issue, but maybe it's subclinical and it's the liver or the gut. And so that can impact your AMH, your FSH, and your follicle count and your body's ability to implant. This is also for you if you've had recurrent pregnancy loss. So you're able to get pregnant and then we keep going, having multiple losses, the devastation of going through that. And then we're going to a fertility clinic and they haven't dug deeper. I say it over and over again to people, you don't have a medication deficiency. So we can use medication, we can deploy it at the right time, bring in medicated cycles, look at an IUI, look at an IVF, maybe do a PRP, the ovarian rejuvenation, but we need to deploy it at the right time, even donor eggs. So we've got to get the host, you, in the best possible shape. We can't skip all this piece and say, oh, wait a minute, I just went to see my REI, the reproductive endocrinologist and fertility specialist, and he said, well, let's give medication. I think you got a shot at this. You got some follicles, let's go. But he's not going to look at any of this stuff. He's trained to do surgeries and medication. And so we just asked the wrong person. So we need to really include a team with this. So we do have a functional medicine OBGYN as part of our team here at Fab Fertile. We have functional nutrition practitioners, fertility mindset coaches. We ship tests worldwide, and we look at your biomarkers, look at testing, and then also bring in the nervous system regulation to be able to help your body prepare for pregnancy success. If you are looking for an IVF, get your body in the absolute best shape. So addressing chronic inflammation. If you got inflammation coming in from a food sensitivity, from environmental toxins, all the toxins we're exposed to, the making sure you have a water filter, all your personal care and your household cleaning products, making sure those are toxic free, not throwing everything in the garbage right away, but as each one expires, throw it out. Except do not be having those candles going on in your house, those fragrances. Get a nice non-toxic candle. Everything we can do to reduce inflammation, that can help with egg development. And poor sleep, I see it over and over again. People tell me, I've got insomnia, I haven't slept this whole last year, I wake up for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the night. So we've done a whole podcast episodes, I'll link them below, on sleep. If you're waking up between 1 to 3, is it blood sugar issues? Maybe your blood sugar's crashing and that's why you're up. Is there magnesium deficiency, liver sluggishness? Maybe you're waking up early in the morning. Is it your adrenaline spiking? So you should go to bed and bye-bye night. Sleep through the night, wake up feeling rested. I got people in their late 20s and 30s telling me they're so tired. I am exhausted. That's been a theme this week. Obviously, we had the time change going on. I'm recording this middle of November. We had the time change that just happened, and that 1 hour seems to have us like dragging for a week. I came back from Italy, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the 6 hours, that took me weeks to come back to my normal. But I think it's worse somehow coming back than going. Because when you're going, you're excited to be there, and you come back, you're like, oh, okay, all this. You should be sleeping 7 to 9 hours, 9 best, and waking up feeling refreshed. That's a huge clue. And if you're feeling you've got mood swings, or if you've got poor sleep, that's a huge clue. Stress, yes, obviously anyone on the fertility journey, and then life in general. I ask people, how are they doing on the stress scale? 1 not stressed, 10 super stressed, 7, 8, 9. I had someone yesterday tell me they were 15. If your stress is blowing off the chart, that's impacting your egg quality and your AMH levels and your FSH levels. Processed foods, we know that eating ultra processed foods, fast food, we all know that's not good, but the stuff is addictive. And it's not about willpower, it's about chopping it out. So just ripping off the Band-Aid and doing an elimination diet. Send me a message to hello@fabfertile.ca, subject line 10-day. I'll give you that elimination diet so we can look at that. And you can start making those changes right away. There's a sweet spot. You got Thanksgiving coming up in a couple weeks. In between Thanksgiving and Christmas, if you celebrate, you can do that elimination diet, have it done right before Christmas. There's no point delaying these things. Make the changes now, and then you'll be further ahead. And so we want to reduce inflammation from improving your sleep, looking at your stress, not eating the processed foods and the fast foods. I don't need to tell you, you already know that. And then the toxins, like we just talked about, your personal care, your water, your air. You're not supposed to put yourself in a bubble, but minimize your exposure as much as possible. And then gut health. A lot of people don't think this when you're on the fertility journey, that your gut health is highly tied to the health of your ovaries. And we see infections all the time. So if you got infections like H. pylori, which is going to lower your stomach acid. So if you got GERD or acid reflux, we know there's an issue going on, or you don't even need to have those symptoms and you can still have it. Or maybe it's your partner that has it and you guys are passing it back and forth. If one person has it, the other person needs to be treated. And so sometimes we can do antibiotics. Bear in mind, it seems like the fast way of addressing this if you have it, but then we will take out all the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, and it takes longer to then repair the gut. So we need to be mindful of the strategies we deploy on this piece. But if you've got an overgrowth of H. pylori, it lowers your stomach acid, you eat a beautiful diet, you don't absorb any of those nutrients. And so we see this as a theme. And then that impacts your nutrient absorption and your estrogen balance. And then so gut repair, we start to repair the gut, address infections. That can then help with hormone balance. Blood sugar, like we talked about, if you've got poor sleep, if you're hangry, If you have mood swings, if your partner is breathing and you want to claw his little eyeballs out because he's breathing or he's chewing, whatever he may be doing, obviously there could be some, maybe you need some bioidentical hormones to help too. You may want to bring in some bioidentical hormones. Sometimes progesterone cream can help with that, or we can get a compounding pharmacy and actually use bioidentical hormones. We don't want to use synthetic. Those can have negative side effects. For the blood sugar piece, if you've got poor sleep, if you've got mood swings, if you feel hangry, that could be a sign that you've got blood sugar issues, and we use continuous glucose monitors to be able to stabilize your blood sugar. You want to make sure you have more protein and fat and fiber. If you're starting the day with a big bowl of oatmeal and a big muffin or a croissant or a piece of bread, that can then have your blood sugar on a swing the whole entire day. Send a message to hello@fabfertile.ca, subject line protein, and we talk about all how to bring in protein into your diet. Most people we see are not eating enough protein. You need more than 90 grams, even higher than that. Thyroid, like we just said, the adrenals impact the thyroid, impact the AMH, the FSH, and the follicle count. So if you've got chronic stress, we look at the adrenals. If they're flatline, it's supposed to go up in the morning, your cortisol down at night. Maybe yours are flatline from chronic stress. That can disrupt your ovulation and your hormone signaling. So we need to support with the proper nutrients, bringing in magnesium, B vitamins, and nervous system regulation exercises, the vagus nerve, so gargling or singing, meditation, yoga, having some essential oils, something 5 minutes a day, getting outside, whatever helps with you to be able to address the stress. Even if you're like, I don't feel stressed, it's important to weave these things into your day. And it's not about long hours of meditating. It's how do we take little breaths, to take little breaks, to do some breathing, to get outside, to hang out with people that give you joy. So the nutrient depletion, so typically for the foundational supplements that we recommend to start with, we want to do a methylated prenatal, we want to do a vitamin D3, K2. We see a lot of people with low AMH and have low vitamin D. You want the D between 60 to 80. I regularly see it way lower. We want to supplement, but we also want to see why is it low? Is there gut infections going on? Magnesium, glycinate, this is for both you and your partner. Same with the D, same with the CoQ10, which is good for egg and sperm health. The magnesium, our soils are depleted. More than 85% of us are deficient in magnesium, and that can help with the sleep and help calm you down. If you're really just like on edge, overwhelmed, magnesium, spray it on your feet. You can have an Epsom salt bath and adding in magnesium glycinate. That can really help with the mitochondrial health, which is the powerhouse of the cells, and hormone balance. We see that nutrient deficiency. The thing is just low across the board. We boost everything up. Lo and behold, the hormones come back online. We were talking about Samantha, so she had an AMH of 0.02. She'd had some pregnancy losses, irregular cycles, so she was 44. She had gut infections, high insulin, inflammation, low thyroid function. When our Fab Fertile method, we focused on gut healing, blood sugar balance, nervous system, and then she was able to go on and conceive naturally when they told her there was no hope. She also had a very strong faith. So I'll ask people, where is your hope? Sometimes they're like, I feel guarded, I'm not sure. They've told me that AMH is too low, that I don't know if it's going to work. Or some people are like, I just know it's going to work. Usually what I see in a couple, doing this for over a decade, the woman is a little more pessimistic and the man is more optimistic. Sometimes we do have both couples are optimistic, but that's what I see. So the woman, she's doing a lot of research, she's put a lot of pressure on herself, she's listening to conventional medicine, but then something's telling her, and there's a reason why they're listening to my podcast, something's telling her something has been missed. But still in the back of the mind, that AMH number just sits there telling you, oh, you're running out of time, and you start to panic and the shoulders go up to the ears and you think AMH is a poor predictor of live birth outcomes. Lots of studies talking about it's important to look at the AMH and the FSH, poor predictor of live birth outcomes. We need to look beyond those levels. It doesn't look at it. Basically, the AMH is how well you'll do with IVF. They think it's too low, they'll tell you donor eggs, or they won't be able to do. If they think it's too low, they'll tell you donor eggs. It doesn't test your egg quality and doesn't test your uterine receptivity. We need to know it, but we don't hang our hat on it. We need to look beyond it. We want to know the AMH, the FSH, the LH, the estradiol, the progesterone, the DHEAS. We want to do a full thyroid panel. We want to look at the high sensitivity C-reactive protein. We want that below 1, the ferritin. We want that 80 to 100. We see a lot of people going to IVF and over again. So the ferritin being in the 30s, 20s, And so if you're anemic, your iron stores are not good, that could be why it's not working. And then also we see iron and thyroid correlated. And then insulin levels. If your A1C is over 5.4, even though you could be told that's normal, or you're pre-diabetic, we need to get your blood sugar in the best shape. So it's important to know all your biomarkers. Our whole piece here at Fab Fertile is to educate you so you understand what's going on with your health. You can make educated decisions on when to deploy IUI, IVF, PRP, and so you're not throwing your money down the drain. Looking at stool testing, and I do caution you doing one a la carte test. Oh, I did a food sensitivity with a direct-to-consumer test. Those tests may be cheaper, but it's not giving you the full picture of things. And sometimes it comes back, oh, great, I'm fine. I can still eat gluten and dairy. The test said I was good. There's a lot of false negatives with those. We're using practitioner grade testing, and we vetted these. We don't have any kind of affiliation with any of the labs, but we do food sensitivity testing using blood, stool testing. So we like the food sensitivity test we like is the Zoomer from Vibrant America in the States. We like the GI map test. We believe that one's the best one in the market right now. And then also we do genetic testing, which is different from the karyotyping you're going to do at the fertility clinic. This is looking at your gene variants, and then how do we personalize your protocol. So we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and guessing and, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to read some of the popular books in the market. It starts with the egg, pound down a whole bunch of supplements, maybe you just have expensive pee. We need to address the infections, look at gut inflammation, not do one-off testing. We need to pull it all together. This piece it's multifactorial. Otherwise, you'll just waste your money. And then we may want to bring in hormone testing so you can see in black and white what's going on with your adrenals. You can see where the hormones are over a 24-hour period, and then how do we then make customized adjustments. And then we can look at your biomarkers, all your blood work, and then looking at the testing, food, stool, genetics. And then we can bring in a vaginal microbiome, bring in a nutrient deficiency test, bring in the adrenals. We don't do it all. People are like, I want to do all the tests. So that's way too many. So we start with the food, stool, genetics, blood work for you and your partner, semen testing, including DNA fragmentation. He's got to be part of it. Even though it's you with the low AMH, we need to make sure you're not passing infections back and forth, either via saliva or during intercourse. So the vaginal microbiome and the seminal microbiome, maybe that's why the transfers aren't working. Maybe that's why you're having pregnancy loss. Maybe you have uroplasma. Maybe you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria. We need to address all of this. We do the gut first, and then we do the vaginal and potentially seminal microbiome. So we want to do that whole food anti-inflammatory diet, definitely taking out gluten and dairy for 60 to 90 days and doing that elimination diet, antioxidant foods, berries, leafy greens, turmeric, some green tea, balance your blood sugar. So that's going to support your hormone balance. Those supplements we talked about, the CoQ10, we could do omegas, vitamin D3, K2, magnesium, glycinate, do the methylfolate prenatal, and also a probiotic. And then after that, it's always personalized based on testing. Otherwise, you just take a whole bunch of Vitex and maca and bee pollen and all these different Cital. You're taking a whole cupboard full of vitamins, but maybe you have expensive peas. We need to be mindful about the supplement piece because people just go off the rails there as well. Prioritize your sleep, 7 to 9 hours, gentle movement. We do not want to be doing vigorous exercise, boot camp or HIIT, walking, yoga, resistance training. You can do some weightlifting too, supporting your nervous system. So breath work, journaling, meditation, pick something and reduce all those toxins, the plastics. Do not use a plug-in anywhere in your house, the toxins you're inhaling. You want to reduce the chemicals in your home they're exposed to. And then if your body doesn't feel safe to procreate, because we're so nervous that you're over 40 and you're thinking, what can you do? And the time is ticking and we feel so pressured and potentially desperate. That's not when the baby comes in. The baby comes in when we're feeling grounded. People in their 40s have babies all the time, that we feel safe, that we're not in a rush, we're not impatient, we're not rushing off to the clinic because we feel that our fertility is dropping off a cliff. We don't want to be blind to your age, so we need to make targeted action. And this approach, our Fab Fertile method, is target action, looking at testing and then making some informed decisions. Slowing down, creating that calm environment. And so we're not anti-IVF. We need to determine when IVF is appropriate. So typically 3 to 6 months beforehand to support your egg quality, the embryo health, implantation. Because I see people, the retrieval is canceled, the transfer doesn't work, or it's not implanting, or it does, and you have pregnancy loss. Once we've looked at our biomarkers, looking at the testing, and making an informed decision of when to deploy IUI or IVF, sometimes we can do cycle monitoring to see what's happening with the follicles, and then we can make an informed decision on when we want to bring it in, using the testing to guide the readiness. So it's not like this fear or pressure. We come in there with an informed knowledge about our health. And so when you work on your health, the fast track is an IVF. The fast track is always getting you and your partner in the best shape. And like we said, we were talking about Samantha's story there, where she was 44 with AMH of 0.02, conceived naturally. And I don't want to sugarcoat that that's low AMH, but we need to look beyond what's being missed. And people will come to tell me over and over again, I'm like, how's your health? I feel fine. When we dig deeper, we have more conversations. We have 100-question health history. We find out you may feel fine, but something's being missed. Maybe you have skin issues, acne, psoriasis, dermatitis. Maybe you have joint issues, so inflamed joints. Maybe you're dealing with digestive issues, constipation, diarrhea, burping, bloating. All those are common but not normal. Maybe you're dealing with mood issues, brain fog, or ADHD, or irritability. All those are common but not normal. Maybe you have an autoimmune disease. People tell me, I have low AMH. By the way, I also have celiac. That's a huge clue. Or, oh, by the way, I have Crohn's. That's not, by the way, that is a massive clue. Or, oh, by the way, I'm on thyroid medication because my TSH was over 2 and they put me on thyroid medication and no one's looked at the full panel of the thyroid and your antibodies are trained the wrong way. We want the TPO antibody below 10, the TBG below 30. I got people going for IVF and their antibodies are 500, 600. No wonder it's not implanting. No wonder you've had pregnancy loss. Educate yourself and not blindly trust the doctors. Use them. You're hiring them, especially for IVF. You're paying them. And so to really advocate for your health, AMH is not your destiny. It is a clue. So we need to create an environment where your eggs, your hormones, your body are going to thrive. You can get pregnant naturally or improve the chances of IVF working. So if you wanted to book a call with me, get my eyes on your specific situation, send a message to hello@fabfertile.ca, subject line fertile, and then we will talk about some options to help. Take care.